For days later, my husband would lose the company he had spent his entire life trying to control. His mother would deny knowing me. His sister would call me a vindictive liar. And the woman who had been living as Daniel's wife would turn against him before the ink on the legal papers was dry. But on Monday morning, I knew none of that. I was sitting beside Daniel's hospital bed, holding a cup of ice chips while he blamed me for bringing him the wrong phone charger. "This is the old one," he snapped, tugging at the cord. "Barely works. You left the new one at the office. I told you it was in my briefcase. I checked twice." Daniel exhaled through his nose and shut his eyes. His face was pale from vomiting, but irritation still came easily to him. "I have a board meeting in 4 days. Grace, I can't afford to be unreachable." "I know, you say that, but you don't understand what's at stake." I swallowed the response that rose to my throat. That had become one of Daniel's favorite sentences during our 5-year marriage. "You don't understand what's at stake." He had said it when I questioned why our savings had to be transferred into his medical device company. He had said it when I asked why he missed our anniversary dinner to meet a consultant. He had said it when I hesitated before signing documents that placed my house behind one of his company loans. And every time, I had let him make me feel selfish for asking. A nurse stepped into the room and checked his IV. "You're lucky your wife got you here when she did," she said. "Your dehydration was getting serious." Daniel gave her a weak smile. "My wife worries too much." The nurse laughed softly. "That's better than not enough." I looked down at my hands. Daniel had woken me at 2 in the morning, doubled over in pain. I had driven him from our home in Webster Groves to the emergency room, filled out his paperwork, called his mother, notified his sister, and stayed beside him while he complained that the hospital pillow was too flat. At 34, I managed patient relations at a senior rehabilitation center in St. Louis. I spent my days calming frightened families, explaining insurance delays, and remembering which resident's granddaughter was applying to nursing school. People told me I had a gift for making a room feel safer. Yet with my own husband, I could never seem to do enough. Daniel opened his eyes again. "My laptop is at the office. The doctor said you need to rest." The doctor doesn't have a controlling interest in Whitmore Mobility hanging over his head. I leaned closer. "Tell me what you need." His expression softened immediately. That was how Daniel worked. Harshness first, affection once I gave in. "Go to the office," he said. "Tell Nicole I'll be out for at least 2 days. Pick up my laptop in the blue board folder." "Shouldn't Nicole already know you're in the hospital?" I didn't have time to call her. "I can call." "No." His answer came too quickly. I frowned. Daniel rubbed his forehead. "I mean, don't explain everything over the phone. There's enough gossip in that building. Just go in, speak to Nicole, and leave." "What about the board?" "I'll handle the board." "Daniel, you can barely keep water down." His mouth tightened. "I need you to do this without turning it into a discussion." The word stung, but I nodded. "Okay." He reached for my wrist and gave it a small squeeze. "That's my girl." For years, those 3 words had been enough to make me feel chosen. That morning, they made me feel useful. I mistook the 2 things for the same kind of love. Before leaving, I arranged his medications on the tray and texted his mother. "Daniel is stable. The doctor thinks it's acute gastroenteritis. I'm going to his office to pick up his computer." Eleanor replied almost immediately. "Don't let him upset himself. He has been under enormous pressure." She did not ask whether I had slept. I was used to that. For nearly 3 years after Eleanor's spinal surgery, I had managed her appointments, physical therapy, medications, meals, and insurance appeals. Daniel's sister, Vanessa, always said she was too busy with her children. Daniel said the company could not function without him, so I had stepped in. I stepped in so often that no one in the Whitmore family noticed I had stopped having a life outside the spaces they needed filled. Whitmore Mobility Solutions occupied several floors of a glass office building in Clayton. I had been there only twice before, both times after business hours. Daniel claimed he preferred to keep work and marriage separate. I had once thought that was professional. The young woman at reception looked up as I approached. "Good morning. Can I help you?" "Yes. I'm here to see Nicole Harper. Do you have an appointment?" "No. My husband was admitted to Barnes Jewish early this morning. I need to let his assistant know he won't be in." Concern crossed her face. I'm sorry. What's your husband's name? Daniel Whitmore. Her fingers stopped above the keyboard. She looked at me, then at the wedding ring on my hand. I'm sorry. Did you say Daniel Whitmore? Yes. He's the general manager. I know who he is. Something in her voice changed. Not hostility. Confusion. Is Nicole available? I asked. The receptionist blinked twice. Could I ask your name? Grace Sullivan. Grace Whitmore legally. Although I still use Sullivan professionally. Her face lost color. Behind her, another employee glanced over. I gave a small, nervous laugh. Is something wrong? No. She lowered her voice. You said you're Mr. Whitmore's wife? That's right. She stared at me long enough that my stomach tightened. Mom, Mr. Whitmore comes in with his wife almost every morning. I waited for her to smile. She did not. What? He comes in with Mrs. Whitmore. They attend company events together. I am Mrs. Whitmore. The employee behind her stood abruptly and carried a stack of folders toward the hallway, moving with the exaggerated speed of someone escaping an uncomfortable conversation. The receptionist's cheeks turned red. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Who are you talking about? She looked toward the elevators. I may be mistaken. You're not mistaken. My voice stayed calm because calm was what I did when other people panicked. It did not mean I was calm inside. What is her name? I really need to get Nicole. Please. The receptionist pressed her lips together. Celeste Warren. The name landed with the precision of a blade. I had heard it before. Daniel's first love. The woman he had dated in college. The woman Eleanor once described as brilliant but too ambitious for her own good. The woman Daniel said he had not spoken to in years. I placed one hand against the counter. Celeste works here. She's a strategic consultant. And people believe she's Daniel's wife? The receptionist looked miserable. I thought she was. The elevator doors opened behind me. A woman in a gray suit stepped out, holding a tablet against her chest. She stopped when she saw me. Grace. I recognized her from Daniel's holiday party photographs. Nicole? She glanced at the receptionist, then back at me. What are you doing here? Daniel is in the hospital. Her eyes widened. What happened? Acute gastroenteritis. He asked me to pick up his laptop. Nicole's attention moved to my ring. I watched the exact moment she understood. You didn't know, I said. She looked away. Know what? That I'm his wife. Nicole lowered her voice. Maybe we should talk in his office. The receptionist whispered. I'm sorry. I nodded because she looked close to tears, and comforting other people was still a reflex even while my own life was splitting open. Nicole walked quickly down the hall. I followed. Employees glanced at me as we passed. One man started to greet Nicole, then stopped when he saw her expression. Inside Daniel's office, Nicole closed the door. I don't know what he told you. She began. He told me Celeste was someone he dated years ago. Nicole's mouth tightened. She's been consulting here for over 4 years. 4 years. I assumed everyone knew. Everyone except his wife. Grace. I swear. I didn't know about you. You've heard my name. Yes. But Daniel said you helped his mother. I thought you were a family friend or a relative. A relative? Nicole looked ashamed. At the holiday party last year, he said you were close to Eleanor and helped manage some family matters. Ist her. I had organized that party. Daniel had asked me to contact the caterer, arrange hotel rooms for out-of-town clients, and choose gifts for the executive team. Then he told me spouses were not invited. Does Celeste attend those events? I asked. Nicole nodded slowly. As Mrs. Whitmore? No answer was necessary. I turned toward Daniel's desk. A framed photograph stood beside his computer monitor. Daniel and Celeste were dressed for a formal gala. Her hand rested on his chest. His arm circled her waist. She wore a diamond ring, not the same as mine, but close enough that no one looking at them would question what they were meant to be. Beside the photograph was a place card. Daniel and Celeste Whitmore. Picked it up. Nicole took a step forward. Grace, what event was this? The Gateway Medical Foundation dinner. When? February. February. Daniel had told me he was in Kansas City negotiating a supplier contract. That same week, I had driven Eleanor to an orthopedic appointment, cooked meals for her freezer, and canceled a dinner with my coworkers because Daniel said his mother should not be left alone. I put the card down carefully. Where is the laptop? Nicole moved behind the desk. He keeps it in the bottom drawer. She opened the drawer and paused. Inside was a black access card attached to a silver key ring. I pointed to it. What is that? Nicole did not answer immediately. Nicole, it's for an apartment downtown. Whose apartment? The company rents it. For visiting executives? Her silence answered me. I almost laughed. Not because anything was funny, because 6 months earlier, Daniel had told me we could not afford to repair the leaking roof over our guest room. He had said the company crisis had drained us, and accused me of caring more about appearances than our future. Meanwhile, a company apartment waited downtown for him and Celeste. Nicole placed the laptop and a blue folder into a leather case. I'm so sorry. Did they travel together? She looked at the floor. Yes. Share hotel rooms? I don't process the reservations. That wasn't my question. Her eyes filled with pity. I hated that pity more than the answer. Yes, she whispered. Someone knocked on the door. Before Nicole could respond, it opened. Celeste Warren stepped inside. She was tall, composed, and dressed as if she had never once rushed into an emergency room wearing yesterday's blouse. Her gaze moved from Nicole to me. Recognition flickered across her face. Then she smiled. You must be Eleanor's care coordinator. Nicole inhaled sharply. I looked at the woman who had worn my husband's name while I washed his mother's hair after surgery. No, I said.
I'm Grace Sullivan.
Celeste's smile remained in place.
I'm sorry.
Have we met? I'm Daniel's wife. For 1 second, the room went completely still. Then Celeste tilted her head. How strange. What is this misunderstanding? I lifted the place card from Daniel's desk. Which part is the misunderstanding? Your name, his name, or the ring? She glanced at Nicole. You should give us a moment. Nicole hesitated. It's all right, I told her. I was just leaving. Celeste watched me place Daniel's laptop into the case. Company computers contain confidential information. My husband asked me to retrieve it. I'm sure Daniel didn't intend for you to examine it. Her tone was smooth, almost gentle. That was the moment I understood something important. She was not surprised that I existed. She was surprised that I had appeared. I met her eyes. How long have you been pretending to be me? Her expression hardened. No one is pretending. Then why does everyone here think you're married to my husband? Daniel and I work closely together. People make assumptions. Do they also assume you live together? Nicole shifted beside the desk. Celeste's eyes narrowed. You seem emotional. Daniel has mentioned that you sometimes struggle with insecurity. I felt the old reflex rise inside me, the urge to defend myself, to explain that I was not jealous, unreasonable, demanding, or unstable. Daniel had used those words for years. Whenever I asked why he recoiled from my touch, he sighed and said, "Why does everything have to be about your insecurity?" Whenever I suggested counseling, he said, "You're trying to turn me into the villain because I'm tired." Once, after I cried on our anniversary, he looked at me with wounded eyes and said, "Marriage isn't only about sex. Why do you keep making me feel like I'm failing you?" So I stopped asking. I lost weight, changed my hair, bought perfume a saleswoman promised was elegant but not desperate. I learned to make the short ribs Daniel loved. Even though the smell made me nauseated, none of it changed the distance between us. Now the woman standing in front of me had used the same word. Insecurity, not a feeling, a script. I need to return to the hospital, I said. Celeste stepped aside. I think that's best. I carried the laptop out of Daniel's office without raising my voice. Employees pretended not to watch me. In the elevator, my hands began to shake so badly that I nearly dropped the case. I wanted to call Daniel. I wanted to demand an explanation while nurses and patients listened. I wanted to tell Eleanor that her son had humiliated me. Then I remembered something one of my residents, a retired judge named Helen Morris, had once told me after discovering that her nephew had stolen from her accounts. When a liar finds out you know the truth, Grace, he does not confess. He destroys whatever proves it. By the time I reached my car, I had made one decision. Daniel would not know what I had seen. Not yet. I placed the laptop on the passenger seat and sat behind the wheel. For several minutes, I stared at my wedding ring. Then the laptop chimed. The screen had not fully gone to sleep. A new message appeared in the corner. From Celeste Warren. Subject: 5-year requirement. Final trustee approval. My heartbeat slowed. I clicked the notification. The email opened. There were only 3 lines visible. The trustees vote Friday morning. Once they confirm the marriage has remained stable for 5 full years, the controlling shares are yours. Eleanor says Grace is still cooperative. For more days. Daniel. Then we can finally get rid of her. I read the message twice. Then a third time. Daniel had not married me because he loved me. He had married me because someone was counting the years. I did not scream. I did not call Daniel. I did not drive back to the hospital and throw his laptop onto his bed. I sat in my car with the email open, reading the same words until they stopped looking like English. For more days. Daniel. Then we can finally get rid of her. A horn sounded behind me. I realized I had been sitting in the parking garage exit lane. I pulled into an empty space, locked the doors, and called the only attorney whose name I trusted. Rebecca Hall had helped one of our rehabilitation residents stop her son from selling her house without permission. She answered on the 4th ring. Rebecca Hall. This is Grace Sullivan. We met at Meadowbrook Rehabilitation last year. I remember you. Is this about a resident? No. My voice broke. It's about my marriage. There was a pause. Are you in immediate danger? I don't think so. Are you alone? Yes. Tell me what happened. I tried to speak calmly. I managed to explain the hospital, the receptionist, Celeste, and the email. Rebecca did not interrupt until I said, I have Daniel's company laptop. Did you steal it? No. He sent me to get it. His assistant gave it to me. Do you have that request in writing? A text. Save it. Screenshot it and send it to a secure email account Daniel cannot access. I looked at the laptop. Can I copy what's on here? Only material you are lawfully authorized to access, and only information related to you, your marriage, your property, or potential fraud against you. Do not guess passwords. Do not open unrelated client files. Do not delete or change anything. There's an email already open. Photograph the screen. Record the time. Then call me from somewhere private. I'm supposed to bring the laptop to the hospital. You still can. First, protect yourself. Her voice was firm without being cold. Grace, listen carefully. Once Daniel knows you have seen that email, he may erase records, move money, or accuse you of misconduct. You need to behave as though you know nothing. I press my hand to my mouth. I don't know if I can look at him. You don't have to forgive him. You only have to avoid warning him. I photographed the email and Daniel's text asking me to retrieve the laptop. Then I forwarded the images to a new account Rebecca helped me create. She told me to bring the laptop to her office before returning to the hospital. I can be there in 20 minutes. She said, You don't have another appointment? I do. I'm moving it. Why? Because your husband has a deadline in 4 days. And apparently so do you. At Rebecca's office, I signed an engagement agreement with hands that would not stop shaking. She reviewed the email without touching Daniel's computer. This mentions a trustee vote and a 5-year marriage requirement. She said, Do you know anything about a family trust? Daniel's father left him shares in the company. Daniel said the trustees were delaying control because they thought he was too young. How old was he when his father died? 31. Rebecca lifted one eyebrow. Not exactly a teenager. He told me his father was controlling. That may be true. It also may be the story Daniel uses whenever a rule gets in his way. She asked whether I had signed business documents during the marriage. I thought of the folders Daniel regularly placed beside my dinner plate. Some loan papers, insurance forms, a few trust documents. Did you have your own attorney review them? No. Daniel said that would create unnecessary expenses. Rebecca's mouth tightened. Do you own your home jointly? The house was mine before we married. I refinanced after the wedding. Why? To help his company. Daniel said the bank needed proof that his family was committed. Rebecca leaned back. Your house may be connected to this. The room seemed to tilt. He said it was only temporary. People often use the word temporary when they want a signature. I stared at her. What do I do now? We identify what they used you for. Then we stop them from using you again. She instructed me to search only Daniel's email for my legal name, our address, and terms such as spouse, collateral, trust, and 5-year requirement. Rebecca remained beside me while I worked. The first search result was from 3 weeks before our wedding. The sender was Eleanor Whitmore. Grace has an excellent professional reputation and no financial scandals. The trustees will like her. Daniel replied. She's kind, but she asks questions when she gets nervous. Celeste answered 2 minutes later. Then make her feel guilty for asking. Women like Grace would rather doubt themselves than accuse someone they love. My fingers went numb. Rebecca glanced at me. Do you need to stop? No. I opened the next email. It was from Vanessa. She doesn't have powerful relatives. And she's already attached to Mom. If Daniel marries her, she'll work twice as hard to prove she belongs with us. I remembered the first time Vanessa brought Daniel to a charity event at Meadowbrook. He had followed me into the hallway after I calmed a patient's angry son. You're incredible with people, he had said. I thought he had noticed me. Now I knew I had been evaluated. I opened another message. Daniel had written it during our honeymoon. I did what we discussed. The marriage is real enough to survive questions. I can't keep sleeping with her, though. Celeste replied. You don't have to. Tell her you're stressed. If she pushes, act hurt, she'll apologize. Below that, Daniel wrote. She already did. I shoved the laptop away. Rebecca caught it before it slid off the desk.
I'm sorry,
she said. I stood so quickly my chair struck the wall. For 5 years, I thought something was wrong with me. My voice grew louder. I went to a nutritionist. I spent money on clothes I hated. I asked him if I was unattractive, and he looked at me like I had humiliated him. Rebecca waited. I pressed both hands against the desk. He said I made him feel inadequate. He said marriage wasn't only about sex. He made me ashamed for wanting my own husband to touch me. That was deliberate. She said. I know. The words tore out of me. I know that now. I turned away. But there was nowhere to hide from what I had read. Daniel had not merely rejected me. He and Celeste had studied me. They knew kindness was the easiest weapon to use against me. Rebecca handed me a tissue. I need you to hear this before you go back to the hospital. Nothing in those emails says you were undesirable. Says they needed you emotionally off balance. I laughed once, bitterly. That's supposed to make me feel better? No. It's supposed to keep you from carrying their lie after you leave them. We found more. Eleanor had recommended that Daniel involve me in her recovery. The more Grace feels responsible for the family, the less likely she is to leave over marital disappointment. Vanessa had complained that I was asking too many questions about company finances. Celeste replied, give her another family crisis. She always stops thinking about herself when someone needs help. 3 days later, Vanessa had called me crying because Eleanor had supposedly fallen in the bathroom. I canceled a professional conference and stayed with Eleanor for a week. There had been no serious fall. The hospital record showed only a minor bruise. I closed my eyes. They created emergencies. Rebecca nodded. Possibly. To keep me busy. To keep you cooperative. The word hit harder than obedient. I had not been a wife to them. I had been cooperative. Rebecca helped me save copies of the emails directly connected to my marriage and property. We documented every file. Then she closed the laptop. Go back to the hospital. Give it to him. Do not confront him. What if he asks whether I opened it? Tell him the screen was already on. That is true. And if he lies, he will. She said it without hesitation. Your job is not to win the argument today. Your job is to learn how far the fraud goes. Before I left, she gave me the name of a forensic accountant, Marcus Reed. I'll ask him to run your credit and review public records. Do not access your joint accounts from a device Daniel controls. I nodded. At the hospital, Daniel was sitting upright, arguing with someone on the phone. I don't care what Maggie says. Delay the report until I'm back. He saw me and ended the call. What took you so long? Traffic. He held out his hand. Laptop. I gave him the case. His eyes moved over my face. What happened at the office? Nicole was surprised to see me. Nicole is surprised by everything. The receptionist said you come to work with your wife. Daniel's hand stopped on the zipper. For half a second, fear crossed his face. Then he frowned at me as if I had disappointed him. Are we really doing this while I'm in the hospital? I'm asking a question. Celeste attends meetings with me. As your wife? No. Then why does everyone call her Mrs. Whitmore? Daniel rubbed his temple. Because people make assumptions. That's what Celeste said. His eyes sharpened. You spoke to her? She came into your office. And what exactly did you say? I introduced myself. Daniel's jaw tightened. Grace, Celeste is preparing a major strategic proposal. The last thing I need is you making her uncomfortable because of some receptionist gossip. I stared at him. He was not worried that I had been humiliated. He was worried that Celeste had been uncomfortable. Did you know she wears a wedding ring to company events? His expression turned weary. I don't monitor her jewelry. There's a photograph of you holding her at a gala. So, you told me you were in Kansas City that week. I was in Kansas City for 2 days and returned for the event. You didn't mention that, because I knew you would react like this. The familiar trap opened beneath me. He lied because I was emotional. He hid things because I was insecure. He rejected me because I demanded too much. I almost stepped into it again. Instead, I lowered my eyes. You're right. This isn't the time. Daniel relaxed. He reached for my hand. I know this marriage has been difficult lately. 5 years reduced to one convenient word. I've been under pressure. He continued. After Friday, things will be different. What happens Friday? His fingers tightened around mine. A board matter. Is it related to your father's trust? He looked at me sharply. Why are you asking? You've mentioned the trustees before. Daniel watched me for several seconds. Then he smiled. Yes, they're finally releasing the controlling shares. That's good news. It will be. If nothing disrupts the process. The warning was soft. I smiled back. Why would anything disrupt it? He searched my face, then kissed my fingers. No reason. Eleanor and Vanessa arrived less than an hour later. Eleanor entered carrying a paper bag from Daniel's favorite deli, even though the doctor had restricted him to clear liquids. My poor boy, she said, touching his forehead. He has gastroenteritis. Mom, Vanessa said. Not malaria. Eleanor frowned at her, then looked at me. Grace, did you call Dr. Lang's office about my Thursday appointment? Daniel was still connected to N4, and she was asking me about her orthopedic appointment. I haven't called yet. Eleanor blinked. You said you would. Daniel went to the emergency room at 2 this morning. Yes, but it only takes a minute. Vanessa placed her purse on the chair. I can call, she offered, then immediately added. Except I don't have the insurance information. You've never asked for it, I said. Her eyebrows rose. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I had spent 5 years saying nothing when I meant everything. Eleanor studied me. You seem upset. The receptionist at Daniel's company thought Celeste was his wife. Vanessa's coffee cup jerked in her hand. A drop landed on her white sleeve. Oh, for heaven's sake, she muttered, wiping it. Eleanor's face remained composed, but the muscles around her mouth tightened. Office employees gossip, she said. It wasn't gossip. Daniel's assistant believed it too. Daniel sighed. I already explained this. Eleanor came closer to me. Grace, marriage requires trust. You cannot allow strangers to poison your mind. Did you know Celeste attends events as Mrs. Whitmore? Vanessa looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at Eleanor. The silence lasted only a second, but it was enough. Eleanor took my hand. Celeste understands the corporate world. Sometimes she accompanies Daniel when you are busy caring for the family. I pulled my hand free. You told me spouses weren't invited. That must have been a different event. Every event. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Grace, do you really want to interrogate everyone because some receptionist confused a consultant for a wife? I turned to her. If someone introduced your husband's ex-girlfriend as his wife, would you call it confusion? Her face hardened. This isn't about me. No, it never is. Daniel's voice cut across the room. Enough. He stared at me. You're embarrassing yourself. 5 years earlier, that sentence would have silenced me. That day, it confirmed what I already knew. They were afraid. Not ashamed. Afraid. I forced my shoulders to relax. You're right, I said.
I'm tired.
Eleanor gave a relieved smile. Of course you are. You have been taking care of everyone. Vanessa picked up her phone. Speaking of that, Mom needs someone to drive her Thursday. I have work. So do I. I looked at her. Then reschedule your work. Her mouth fell open. Eleanor quickly intervened. We can discuss it later. Her phone lit up on the bedside table. She had placed it face up beside her purse. A message appeared before the screen dimmed. Celeste. How much does she know? Don't let her leave Daniel before Friday. I looked at Eleanor. She covered the phone with her hand. Her expression did not change, but color rose along her neck. What is it? Daniel asked. Nothing, she said. I smiled. For the first time that day, the smile felt real. They all knew. Eleanor, whose surgical wound I had cleaned. Vanessa, whose children's birthdays I had planned. Daniel, whose company I had helped save. Every emergency, every family dinner, every grateful embrace had happened while they knew another woman was living as my husband's wife. Daniel reached toward me. Grace, I stepped back. I'm going home to shower. You'll come back tonight? All four of them watched me. Daniel needed reassurance. Eleanor needed me to stay married until Friday. Vanessa needed me to continue managing their mother. And Celeste needed me cooperative. Picked up my purse. Of course, I said softly. Where else would I go? They relaxed. That was their mistake, because when I left the hospital, I did not go home. I drove straight to Marcus Reed's office with 5 years of bank statements, mortgage papers, and the growing certainty that my marriage had never been the only thing they had stolen. Marcus Reed did not offer me coffee. He looked at the stack of documents in my arms, then at my face. Did your attorney tell you what I do? She said you find money people don't want found. That's the polite version. He took the bank statements and motioned toward the chair across from his desk. I also find debt people don't know they have. My stomach tightened. Rebecca had called ahead. So Marcus already knew about Daniel. Celeste. And the trustee vote. He was in his early 40s, with a direct way of speaking that might have felt rude on any other day. That afternoon, I needed direct. I want to know what Daniel did with my house. I said. Marcus opened the mortgage folder. Was the property yours before the marriage? Yes. My grandmother left me enough for the down payment. I bought it 3 years before I met Daniel. And you refinanced 2 years after marrying him? He said Whitmore Mobility needed temporary collateral to secure a line of credit. Did anyone explain that your home could be seized if the company defaulted? My throat went dry. No. He turned one of the pages toward me. My signature appeared at the bottom. Above it were several paragraphs I had never seen separated from the rest of the packet. Marcus tapped one line. This is not temporary support. This is a continuing guarantee. I stared at the page. Daniel said it expired after 6 months. It renews automatically unless the lender releases it in writing. Did they release it? I don't know yet. I gripped the edge of the chair. When I signed, Daniel put the papers between Eleanor's medical power of attorney and a family trust update. He said the bank needed proof that I agreed to the refinance. Did you initial every page? Yes. Did you read every page? I heard Daniel's voice in my head. Do you trust me or not? I tried. Marcus waited. He kept checking the time. I continued. Eleanor had a physical therapy appointment. Daniel said we were making her late. Marcus's expression did not change, but his jaw tightened. They created urgency. They always created urgency. I told him about Vanessa's fake family crises and Eleanor's endless appointments. Marcus wrote something down. People assume financial abuse looks like someone stealing a credit card. He said, sometimes it looks like a husband placing a document in front of a tired wife, while his injured mother waits in the car. The words made me feel sick. I work with older adults who are financially controlled by their families. I should have known. No. His tone sharpened. You know how to recognize abuse when you're given accurate information. Your husband's entire strategy depended on keeping information from you. I looked away. Rebecca had said something similar. They both seemed determined to separate my kindness from my humiliation. I was not ready to believe them, but I wanted to. Marcus logged into a secure credit service after obtaining my written authorization. For 20 minutes, he asked questions while I tried not to read meaning into every pause. Then he turned the monitor slightly. You have 2 commercial credit inquiries. I don't own a business. One was made 18 months ago. The other was made last fall. By Whitmore Mobility. By related lenders. Both applications list you as a personal guarantor. I never applied for commercial credit. Your social security number was used. My hands went cold. Can Daniel do that because we're married? No. The answer came immediately. Marriage does not give someone blanket authority to use your identity. He pulled up another record. There's also a financing statement connected to your property. What does that mean? It means the company may have pledged an interest tied to the home or its proceeds. I need the full filing before I can tell you more. I stood and walked toward the door before realizing I had nowhere to go. Marcus did not tell me to sit down. He waited until I turned back. I gave them everything. I said, "You gave your husband permission to use specific assets for specific reasons. I signed the papers." "You signed papers based on what he told you." A judge may not care. A judge will care whether there was fraud, concealment, coercion, or material misrepresentation. I covered my face. I thought I was helping save his father's company. Some of the money may have gone to the company. Some. Marcus opened my bank records. "Your transfer was $280,000. It was nearly all of my wedding day savings and the money my grandmother had left me." I know. Within 6 weeks, $110,000 moved from Whitmore Mobility to Warren Strategy Group. The name hit me before he said it. Celeste. She owns it. I sat down again. Daniel had cried when I agreed to transfer the money. He had pressed his forehead to mine and said, "You're saving everything my father built." A week later, he had criticized me for buying an $80 pair of shoes for work. "We have to make sacrifices," he had said. Apparently, only one of us had been sacrificing. Marcus printed the transaction history. "This isn't enough to prove the payment was improper. There may be a consulting agreement. She was being paid with my money while sleeping with my husband. That makes the payment morally disgusting. I need to determine whether it was also fraudulent." I almost smiled. It was the first time anyone had described what they had done without asking me to consider Daniel's pressure, Eleanor's health, or the company's needs. "Can you find out before Friday?" "I can find enough to identify immediate risks. A full reconstruction will take longer." "What do you need from me?" "Every statement you have. Tax returns, closing documents, insurance records, any email where Daniel explained what you were signing." I deleted some old messages. Check cloud backups. Also search for words he may have used instead of loan, support, bridge, commitment, temporary, family security. Those were exactly Daniel's words. He had never called it debt. He called it commitment. Before I left, Marcus looked at me over the documents. "Your husband believes you won't understand any of this." He's right. I don't. You don't need to understand every financial instrument today. You need to understand that someone hid the truth because the truth would have changed your decision. I nodded. That part won't understand. My phone rang as I reached the parking lot. It was Vanessa. "Mom says you haven't confirmed her ride for Thursday." I closed my eyes. "Daniel is in the hospital. He's being discharged tomorrow. I have a job. So do I. You work from home. I have meetings, Grace, and I have patients' families waiting for me." She made an impatient sound. "You're always talking about those people as if they're more important than family. They know my work matters." "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means you can take your mother to her appointment." Vanessa went silent. I had never refused her that plainly. "Is this because of Celeste?" she asked. "It's because Eleanor is your mother." Wow. Her voice turned cold. "After everything this family has done for you, what exactly has this family done for me?" "We welcomed you." The answer came so quickly that I knew she had used it before. "You were a rehab employee with a little house and no real connections. Daniel gave you a place in this family. My little house is securing his company's debt. That was your choice." "Was it?" Vanessa hesitated. I heard it. Not surprise. Fear. "Daniel handles the financial details," she said. "You recommended me to him." "What?" "Before we met, you told Daniel and Eleanor that I was a good choice." Her breathing changed. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Then why do you sound nervous?" "I'm not nervous.
I'm offended.
Another familiar trick. If I questioned them, they became the injured party. "Take your mother to the doctor." "Vanessa." I ended the call. My hands were shaking, but something inside me had steadied. The first no was terrifying. The second felt like air. When I arrived at Meadowbrook Rehabilitation, my supervisor, Linda, stopped me near the nurse's station. "You look exhausted. Daniel was hospitalized last night. Is he all right?" "He will be. You should go home." "I'd rather work." Linda studied me. "You're allowed to need something too, Grace." The sentence almost broke me. Before I could answer, a voice called from the family conference room. "Grace, please don't leave." Ruth Banks sat at the table with a stack of unopened bank letters. Her husband had died 6 weeks earlier after 47 years of marriage. Ruth's daughter stood beside her, looking furious. "Mom can't access any of the accounts," she said. "The bank says Dad was the only authorized online user." Ruth twisted a tissue in her hands. "He handled everything. He always said numbers made me anxious." "Did you sign the account documents?" I asked. "I signed whatever he put in front of me." The room seemed to narrow. "What did he tell you they were?" "Insurance, retirement papers, sometimes tax forms." Her daughter pushed one letter toward me. "There's a home equity line. Mom didn't know about it." Ruth's eyes filled. I should have paid more attention. The words came out of me before I could stop them. "No, you should have been told the truth." Ruth looked up. "My husband wasn't a bad man. I didn't say he was. He took care of me." Taking care of someone should not require keeping them uninformed. Her daughter's expression softened. Ruth whispered, "I feel so stupid."
He sat beside her.
"You trusted your husband. Trust is not stupidity." My own voice trembled. "What matters now is that you stop protecting the person who left you with a problem you didn't create." Ruth held my gaze. "Are you talking about me?" I forced a smile. "Yes, but we both knew I was not." I helped her contact the bank's bereavement department and a legal aid organization. We made a list of documents she would need. When she left, Ruth touched my wrist. "You always know what to say." I watched her walk away. "No," I thought. I knew what to say to everyone except myself. Rebecca called just before 5. Marcus sent me his preliminary findings. "How bad?" "Bad enough that we need to prepare an emergency filing. But we may gain more by waiting 24 hours. "Why?" "If Daniel is still trying to complete the trustee certification, he may ask you to sign something new. That document could prove he is continuing the deception. So I let him ask." "You let him ask. You do not sign." She also told me we needed someone inside Whitmore Mobility who understood the financial records. "Think I know who," I said. Margaret Collins had been the company's finance director for more than 20 years. Everyone called her Maggie except Daniel, who referred to her as the old guard. I had met her 3 years earlier during a product recall. A defective mobility aid had injured several patients, and angry families gathered at the hospital demanding answers. Daniel froze. I stepped between him and the families, learned every injured patient's name, arranged transportation, and persuaded hospital administrators to give the company 48 hours to produce replacement equipment. Maggie had found me afterward. "You did more for this company in one afternoon than half the executive team has done in a year," she said. Daniel later told me she was being dramatic. I called the number on the business card she had given me. "Maggie Collins. This is Grace Sullivan." There was a pause. "Daniel's Grace?" The phrasing cut me. "Yes, I heard he was hospitalized. He'll recover. I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer carefully." Her voice changed. "What happened? Who does the company list as Daniel's spouse?" Silence. "Maggie, I can't discuss confidential employee records. I'm not asking for someone else's records. I'm asking whether the company has used my legal identity." Another silence. Then she said, "Can you meet me somewhere private?" We met at a diner near Forest Park. Maggie arrived with no files and placed her phone face down. "I can't give you company documents," she said. "Not without authorization." "I understand, but I can tell you that I have raised concerns." "About Celeste?" "About several things." Her mouth tightened. "Travel reimbursements, the downtown apartment, consulting payments, spousal benefits." "Spousal benefits for Celeste?" Maggie nodded. "Daniel approved them personally." "Did the board know?" "Most board members believe Celeste is his wife." I stared at her. "And me? I met you during the recall. Later, I asked Daniel why his wife never attended events. He said you were Eleanor's rehabilitation coordinator and a close family friend." I let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "I helped save his company that day." "I know." Then he erased me. Maggie looked angry now. "Daniel has spent years making sure different departments see different versions of the truth. Celeste is his spouse for travel and events. You appear on loan and trust documents, the useful wife and the presentable wife."
I'm sorry.
"Did you know about the trust requirement?" I knew his father's trust conditioned control on personal stability and the absence of scandal. I did not know the marriage itself was arranged. Would false spousal declarations matter? They could stop the transfer. What about concealed guarantees? They could do more than stop it. Maggie leaned closer. Grace, the board meets Friday. Daniel has been pressuring accounting to delay an internal report until after the vote. What report? Related party payments to Warren Strategy Group. Celeste's company. Maggie saw the recognition on my face. You know about it. My money went there. Her expression changed from suspicion to outrage. How much? 110,000 that we can trace so far. Maggie sat back. That may be the link we were missing. My phone buzzed. Daniel. I answered and put him on speaker only after Maggie nodded. Hey, I said. Where are you? At work. You should have come back to the hospital. You told me you needed rest. He sighed. I'm being discharged tomorrow morning. I need you to bring a navy suit and my black shoes. All right. And there's a document in the blue folder. My eyes met Maggie's. What document? A spousal confirmation for the trustees. Standard language. What does it confirm? That our marriage is stable and that you support the control transfer. I'll read it tonight. It doesn't need to be read. Grace. It needs to be signed. Maggie's jaw clenched. I prefer to read documents before signing them. Daniel went quiet. Then his voice softened. Is this still about what happened at the office? No, because Celeste is embarrassed. You put her in a difficult position. I almost laughed. I'll try to survive her embarrassment. Grace. His tone sharpened. I need you to be reasonable. Friday affects our entire future. Our future? Of course. What changes after Friday? Everything gets easier. The company stabilizes. We can fix the house. Maybe take a trip. A trip where? He hesitated. I don't know. Somewhere warm. He and Celeste had taken 4 trips that year. He could not name one place he wanted to go with me. Bring the form tomorrow. I said. You'll sign it? I'll look at it. Grace. Why are you making this hard? Maggie closed her eyes. I had heard the sentence hundreds of times. Why are you making this hard? It meant, why are you no longer making this easy for me? I'll see you tomorrow. I said and ended the call. Maggie looked at me. He needs your signature before Friday. Yes. And he thinks you'll give it to him. Yes. Will you? I put my phone down. No. That night, Rebecca sent me more of the emails copied from Daniel's laptop. One was from Eleanor to Celeste. Once the shares transfer, we should encourage Daniel to act quickly. Grace may accept a quiet settlement if we suggest her emotional problems could become public. Vanessa had replied. Use the counseling records. She spent years complaining that Daniel wouldn't sleep with her. It will make her look obsessive. Celeste answered. Perfect. We can say jealousy made her unstable. I read the exchange without crying. There was nothing left in me that wanted their approval. Then I found a message from Daniel. She won't fight. Grace apologizes when other people forget to thank her. I printed it and placed it beside the trustee form. The next morning, Rebecca gave me 2 choices. We can file immediately and alert them, she said. Or we let Daniel present the final documents Friday and prove, in front of the trustees, that he is still making false declarations. What's the risk if we wait? He may move assets. Marcus is monitoring what he can. Yes, and Maggie can preserve the accounting records? If the company's counsel approves a legal hold. I looked at Daniel's message on my phone. Wear the blue dress Friday. Smile. Sign. And let me handle the rest. For 5 years, he had mistaken my patience for weakness. He had mistaken my love for permission. Most of all, he had mistaken my silence for ignorance. I typed my reply. Of course, I won't let you down. Then I turned to Rebecca. Let him say every lie in front of the board. She studied me. Are you sure? I thought of my house, my savings, and the woman I had trained myself to hate because my husband would not touch her. I've never been more sure of anything. Daniel believed Friday would be the day he inherited his father's company. He had no idea it would be the day I stopped carrying the Whitmore family on my back. Daniel came home from the hospital on Wednesday morning acting as if the last 2 days had been a temporary inconvenience instead of the beginning of the end of our marriage. He dropped his overnight bag beside the stairs and looked around. Did you pick up my prescription? It's on the kitchen counter. What about the dry cleaning? In the guest room. My board presentation? Your laptop is in the study. He stared at me. You seem calm. I folded the discharge papers and placed them beside his medication. Would you prefer that I panic? That's not what I said. No, you rarely say exactly what you mean. His eyes narrowed. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, turned it face down, and smiled at me. Come here. He opened his arms. For years, I had wanted Daniel to reach for me without being asked. Now that he did, every movement looked rehearsed. I allowed him to hug me. His chin rested against my hair. I know the last few days have been difficult, he said. Because you were sick? Because of the misunderstanding at the office. I stepped back. What exactly was misunderstood? He sighed. Grace, I'm trying to meet you halfway. You haven't moved. His smile disappeared. I just got out of the hospital, and somehow you're still the injured person in every conversation. His face hardened, but he quickly softened it again. After Friday, I want us to start over. Start what over? Our marriage. I almost admired his confidence. He believed 5 years of neglect could be erased with a sentence because every previous time I had accepted a sentence in place of change. We could take a trip. He continued. Just the two of us. No company. No family obligations. Where? Somewhere you'd like. What do I like? He blinked. What? You said somewhere I'd like. Name one place. He looked irritated. Why are you testing me? I'm asking my husband a simple question. You've always talked about the beach. I hate the beach. That's not true. I get migraines in direct sunlight. You know that. He rubbed his jaw. This is exactly what I mean. I'm trying to do something nice, and you turn it into an interrogation. There it was. The injured expression. The lowered voice. The suggestion that my questions were cruelty. Only now I could see the machinery behind it. I picked up his medication. You need to take this with food. He watched me for another moment, then accepted the pill. Thank you, he said carefully. I nodded. Daniel followed me into the kitchen and removed a folder from his briefcase. I need one more thing. He placed the folder in front of me. The first page read, Spousal Acknowledgement and Marital Stability Certification. I thought you said this was standard. It is. Then why is it 22 pages? Trust lawyers like paperwork. I flipped through it. The language confirmed that our marriage was stable, that Daniel had disclosed all significant personal and financial information, and that I supported the transfer of controlling shares. Several pages later, I found a waiver of potential spousal claims. Near the end was a statement confirming that all guarantees tied to my property had been entered voluntarily and with full knowledge of their purpose. I looked up. You want me to confirm that you never hid financial information from me? I haven't. Then why did you tell me the house guarantee expired after 6 months? His face changed. Only slightly, but enough. Where did you hear that? You told me. No, I said the initial credit period was 6 months. You said my house would be released. It should have been. Was it? Daniel pulled out a chair. Grace, corporate financing is complicated. Is my house still tied to Whitmore Mobility's debt? He pressed his lips together. Technically. The word almost made me laugh. For how much? I don't have the exact number in front of me. You brought me 22 pages to sign. But you don't know how much of my house is at risk? There is no risk if Friday goes as planned. So the house is safe only if you receive the company. His eyes sharpened. Who have you been talking to? My attorney. Daniel pushed back from the table so hard the chair legs scraped the floor. You hired an attorney? I'm being asked to waive legal rights. You don't need independent counsel. The trust lawyers prepared everything. They represent the trust. They represent the family. Exactly. He stared at me as if I had become a stranger. Maybe I had. The Grace he knew would already have apologized for embarrassing him. What did you tell this attorney? He asked. The truth. You don't know the truth. I know my house is still collateral. His nostrils flared. I have spent 5 years building security for both of us. Now, 4 days before everything pays off, you decide to question every decision I've made? You spent 5 years making decisions and calling them ours. I was protecting you. From what? From stress you wouldn't understand. I slid the folder back toward him. My attorney will review it. Daniel did not touch it. If you delay this, the trustees may interpret it as instability. Then perhaps our marriage is unstable. His face went still. Is that a threat? It's a fact. For several seconds, We stared at each other. Then his phone rang again. He checked the screen. Celeste. He declined the call. See, he said. I'm choosing to stay here and fix this with you. The audacity took my breath away. You declined one call from your mistress. And I'm supposed to feel chosen? She is not my mistress. Then answer it on speaker. His hand closed around the phone. This childish behavior is beneath you. The doorbell rang. Daniel looked toward the hallway and swore under his breath. Who is it? I asked. No one. The bell rang again. I walked to the door before he could stop me. Celeste stood outside holding a leather portfolio. Her expression shifted when she saw me. Daniel said he needed the revised board materials. Did he? Daniel appeared behind me. You shouldn't have come here. Celeste's eyebrows lifted. You weren't answering. I told you I'd call. She looked between us. I can leave the folder. No, I said.
Come in.
Daniel's head snapped toward me. Grace. She's practically family. Isn't she? Celeste entered slowly. She walked past the living room and into the kitchen without asking where it was. Then she opened the correct cabinet and took out Daniel's favorite coffee mug. I watched her. She realized her mistake too late. You've been here before, I said. Celeste set the mug down. For meetings. At our house? Daniel works long hours. How many meetings did you hold here while I was caring for Eleanor? Daniel stepped between us. This is going nowhere. I picked up the spousal certification. Did you help prepare this? Celeste glanced at the title. The Trust's counsel drafted it. Did you tell Daniel how to get me to sign it? Her eyes flickered. I don't know what you're implying. I've read your emails. Daniel's face drained of color. Celeste went completely still. What emails? She asked. The ones where you told him to act hurt whenever I asked why he wouldn't touch me. Daniel moved toward me. You accessed confidential company communications? You discussed my body and my marriage on a company account. You had no right to search my laptop. You sent me to retrieve it. The email was open. That doesn't give you permission to copy anything. I didn't say I copied it. The fear in his face told me everything. Celeste recovered first. Grace, whatever you think you saw, you're upset and interpreting private conversations without context. Give me the context. She folded her arms. Daniel was under pressure to satisfy his father's trust. His father used money to control everyone around him. So you helped Daniel use me. That is not what happened. Did you know the trust required him to remain married for 5 years? She hesitated. Yes. Did you know your financial scandal meant the trustees would reject you? Her mouth tightened. It wasn't my scandal. I was blamed for decisions made by senior executives. Did you help choose me? Daniel slammed his hand against the table. Enough. I turned to him. That answer is yes. Then, he pointed toward the hallway. Celeste, leave. She did not move. You called me this morning and said she was still cooperative. Daniel's expression changed. Celeste's eyes widened as she realized what she had revealed. I laughed quietly. Cooperative. Grace, Daniel said. Listen to me. No, I've listened to you for 5 years. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. I married you. I gave you my name. I brought you into this family. My house financed your company, and you benefited from that company. How? You live well. I pay the mortgage. I buy the groceries. I work full-time. You had status. At your office. I was your mother's helper. Celeste picked up her portfolio. This conversation is emotional and unproductive. Of course it is. I said. You were more comfortable when my emotions stayed private and productive for you. She reached the doorway, then turned. If Daniel loses control of the company because of this, hundreds of employees could be affected. Daniel seized on the argument immediately. She's right. This is bigger than our marriage. No, I said. You made my marriage part of the financing structure. You made it exactly this big. Celeste left without another word. The moment the door closed, Daniel's restraint vanished. You have no idea what you're doing. I'm learning. You think an attorney is going to save you? That computer contains protected information. I can have you charged. For collecting evidence about my own identity and property, you took company records. I preserved emails about me. His face twisted. You always do this. Do what? Make yourself the victim. I stared at him. He laughed bitterly. You've spent years complaining that I didn't give you enough attention. Now you find a few messages and build some fantasy where everyone conspired against you. You did conspire against me. I married you. For the trust. I could have chosen anyone. The words left his mouth before he understood what they meant. I nodded slowly. You're right. You could have chosen anyone. His anger faltered. That isn't what I meant. But you chose me because I was useful. I chose you because you were stable, kind, respectable, easy to control. I never said that. Celeste did. He turned away and gripped the kitchen counter. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. My father put me in an impossible position, and you put me in one. I was going to take care of you. When? After Friday. With what? A divorce settlement? He turned back. His silence lasted too long. I felt something inside me settle. You already planned it. No, you were going to get the shares, move the assets, and leave me. Grace, I was confused. For 5 years, I cared about you, but you didn't love me. His eyes filled with tears. I had seen Daniel cry only when he needed something from me. I tried. He whispered. The old part of me wanted to comfort him. I hated that part, but it was still alive. He reached for my hand. Help me get through Friday. After that, I'll make sure you're protected. You can keep the house. We can negotiate something fair. You're offering to return property that was mine before I met you. I'm offering you security. You're offering me payment for remaining useful. His tears disappeared. If you destroy this deal, there may be nothing left to divide. There it was. The threat hidden beneath the apology. If the company loses financing, your guarantee could be called. The house could be exposed. My mother's medical care could be affected. Employees could lose their jobs. You arranged all of that. And now you have a chance to prevent it. By lying to the trustees. By keeping a private marital issue private. I picked up the certification. You want me to swear that you disclosed everything. It's a formality. Then it shouldn't matter if I refuse. It matters because the trustees need your signature. I tore the signature page from the packet. Daniel's face went white. I did not destroy it. I folded it and slipped it into my purse. My attorney will keep this. You think you're powerful now? He said. His voice was low and ugly. You have no idea what our lawyers will do to you. Every therapy appointment. Every message where you complained about our sex life. Every time you accused me of cheating. It will all become evidence that you're unstable. I looked at him. Vanessa suggested that. Didn't she? His expression gave him away. Picked up my purse. Where are you going? To work. You're not leaving this house until we settle this. He moved in front of the door. For 1 second, fear moved through me. Then I took out my phone. Move. Or I call the police and tell them my husband is preventing me from leaving. His eyes dropped to the screen. You wouldn't. Try me. Daniel stepped aside. As I opened the door, he said, my mother wants to see you. I don't want to see her. She thinks she can explain. That means she thinks she can still convince me. Eleanor was waiting in a private room at her country club. She did not hug me when I arrived. That was how I knew the performance was over. Sit down, Grace. I'd rather stand. She sighed. Daniel tells me you've hired an attorney. Yes, this does not need to become ugly. It was ugly before I knew about it. Eleanor folded her hands. I always cared for you. Did you know Daniel and Celeste were together? She looked away. Daniel loved Celeste long before he met you. That wasn't my question. Yes, the answer was quiet. It still struck harder than every email. When I bathed you after surgery, you knew? Yes. When I slept in the chair beside your hospital bed. Yes. When you called me your daughter. Her mouth trembled. I was grateful to you. Grateful enough to tell me the truth? You would have left. Yes. And Daniel would have lost the company.
Ist her.
She sounded as if that justified everything. Did Vanessa know? We all knew. The room went silent. Eleanor reached into her purse and placed a folder on the table. We can still resolve this privately. Inside was a proposed agreement. I would remain married for 90 more days, sign the trustee certification, and make no public allegations. In exchange, the family would pay part of the mortgage and offer me a confidential settlement after the divorce. You want me to help him complete the fraud. I want you to protect what we have all built. I built nothing with you. I carried you while you built a lie around me. Her face tightened. You were not unhappy every day. I almost could not believe her. That is your defense. We gave you family, holidays, security. You gave me chores and called them belonging. Eleanor's eyes filled. My son made mistakes. This was not a mistake. It was a 5-year plan. If you expose him, you will ruin his life. I leaned toward her. You watched him ruin mine because you thought I would clean up afterward. That isn't fair. No, it isn't. I closed the folder and pushed it back. Eleanor's sadness turned to anger. Without Daniel, you would still be a receptionist at a nursing home. I am the patient relations director at a rehabilitation center. Whatever the title is, there it was. 5 years of care. And she did not even know what I did. I stood. Your Thursday appointment is at 10. Vanessa has the insurance information now. I sent it to her. Eleanor looked startled. You're not taking me? No, but you always take me. That was before I understood what I was to you. Grace, I cannot manage those appointments alone. You are not alone. You have a son, a daughter, and the woman you considered suitable enough to be his real wife. Eleanor's lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time in 5 years, I left her to solve her own problem. That evening, Rebecca filed an emergency request to preserve marital and corporate records. Marcus flagged unusual transfers from accounts connected to Daniel. Maggie persuaded outside counsel to issue an internal legal hold. Daniel knew none of it yet. He sent me a message at midnight. Mom says you've calmed down. I knew you'd do the right thing. Leave the signed form on the table before Friday. You don't need to attend the meeting. On Friday morning, he dressed in the navy suit I had once selected for him. I stood behind him as he adjusted his tie. You're not wearing the blue dress, he said. I changed my mind. He looked at my gray suit. You look like you're going to a funeral. In a way, I am. He frowned. What does that mean? Nothing. He held out his hand. The signed form. It's being delivered. His shoulders relaxed. Thank you. He kissed my forehead. I knew I could count on you. I straightened his tie and smiled. Don't worry, Daniel. I'll be there. You're not coming. I said I'll be there. He stared at me, but his phone rang before he could question me. Celeste was waiting outside. Daniel left without looking back. An hour later, he walked into the Whitmore Mobility boardroom expecting to receive control of his father's company. Then he saw me seated beside the lead trustee. Rebecca sat on my right. Marcus had 3 binders open in front of him. Maggie sat across from Daniel with the outside counsel. The unsigned spousal certification rested in the center of the table. Daniel stopped in the doorway. His face turned gray. I smiled at him. You asked me to come support you. No one in the room spoke. I placed my wedding ring beside the unsigned form. So let's tell them exactly what kind of marriage they're being asked to approve. Daniel remained in the boardroom doorway as if refusing to enter might stop the meeting from happening. The lead trustee, Thomas Bell, removed his glasses. Mr. Whitmore, please take your seat. Daniel did not move. He looked at Rebecca, then Marcus, then Maggie. Finally, his eyes settled on me. What have you done? I folded my hands on the table. I came to support my husband. His lips pulled back. This is a private board meeting. Thomas glanced at the unsigned certification. Mrs. Whitmore is directly involved in the matter before us. Daniel stepped inside and shut the door. Celeste entered behind him. She wore the diamond ring from the company photographs. For one absurd second, both of Daniel's wives were standing in the same room. Only one of us had known about the other. Daniel took the chair across from me. Celeste sat beside him. Thomas looked at her. Ms. Warren, this portion concerns the marital certification. You may be asked to leave. Celeste's expression tightened. I am Daniel's strategic advisor. The control transfer affects my work. It also appears to affect your personal life. Rebecca said. Daniel leaned forward. Before this goes any further, I want to know how Grace obtained confidential company documents. Rebecca did not blink. My client was instructed by you to retrieve your laptop. The email concerning her marriage was open on the screen. She preserved material directly related to her legal identity, marital property, and potential financial fraud. She stole it. I suggest you choose your accusations carefully. Rebecca replied. Your written instructions, the assistant's statement, and the access logs have already been preserved. Daniel turned toward Maggie. You gave them internal records. Maggie's face was calm. I provided relevant material to outside counsel. after discovering inconsistent spouse declarations and related party payments. You work for me. I work for the company. I am the company. Not yet, Thomas said. Daniel's face flushed. Thomas opened the meeting packet. The purpose of today's session was to determine whether Daniel Whitmore satisfied the final conditions for transfer of the controlling shares held in trust. One requirement is a stable 5-year marriage without material deception or scandal. Daniel forced a laugh. My marriage has difficulties. That is not fraud. I looked at him. You told the trustees our marriage was stable. It was. You lived with another woman. I did not live with Celeste. Marcus slid a document across the table. This is the lease for the apartment on Washington Avenue. Whitmore Executive Services paid the rent. Building records identify Daniel Whitmore and Celeste Warren as authorized residents. Celeste's eyes moved toward Daniel. He did not look at her. It was a corporate apartment, he said. We both used it for work. Rebecca placed hotel records beside the lease. Did you also use hotel suites together for work? Daniel's jaw tightened. Business travel sometimes requires shared schedules, not shared beds, I said. He glared at me. You cannot prove what happened in a hotel room. I don't have to prove every night. I only have to prove you lied. Thomas raised one hand. Mrs. Whitmore, we will proceed in order. I nodded. Daniel straightened his jacket and addressed the trustees. My wife is upset because she misunderstood my relationship with Celeste. Grace has always been insecure about our physical relationship. There it was, the defense they had planned, the one they thought would humiliate me into silence. He continued, I have tried to protect her privacy, but she has a history of jealousy and emotional overreaction. Rebecca opened the first binder. Would that be the same insecurity Ms. Warren advised you to create? Daniel stopped. Rebecca read from the email without raising her voice. If she asks why you avoid intimacy, act wounded. She is more likely to blame herself than challenge you. One of the independent directors, Harold Pierce, slowly turned toward Celeste. Celeste's face remained composed. That message has been taken out of context. Then provide the context, Thomas said. Celeste pressed her lips together. Daniel spoke quickly. We were discussing Grace's sensitivity. Celeste had experience with difficult relationships and offered advice. I laughed. Every head turned toward me. I'm sorry, I said. I spent 5 years believing I was not attractive enough for my husband. Now I'm hearing that his mistress was acting as our marriage counselor. Do not call her that. Daniel snapped. What should I call the woman who wore your name, lived in your apartment, traveled in your hotel rooms, and instructed you on how to keep your wife obedient? Celeste leaned toward the table. I never told Daniel to keep you obedient. Maggie removed another printed email. You used the word cooperative 17 times. Celeste's eyes flashed. You have no right to read my private communications. They were sent using a company account and discussed the use of a legal spouse to satisfy a company trust. Maggie replied. That made them corporate records. Thomas looked at Daniel. When did your romantic relationship with Ms. Warren end? Daniel glanced at Celeste. Before I met Grace. Rebecca turned a page. This message is dated 5 days after Daniel and Grace's wedding. She read, I completed the honeymoon obligation. I cannot keep sleeping with her. A director at the end of the table muttered, Good Lord. Daniel's face darkened. That was a private conversation. Thomas's voice turned cold. It was a conversation about whether your marriage was genuine enough to satisfy this trust. It was genuine. We had a legal ceremony. We lived together. You used her, Harold said. Daniel looked at him. I protected the company. By deceiving your wife. By complying with an unreasonable condition my father created. Thomas shook his head. You did not comply. You manufactured the appearance of compliance. Celeste crossed one leg over the other. Henry Whitmore's condition was vindictive. He used the trust to control Daniel's personal life. And your solution was to control mine. I said. She looked at me. No one forced you to marry him. No. You only lied about why he wanted me. Daniel struck the table with his palm. This meeting is about company control, not Grace's feelings. Marcus spoke for the first time. Then let's discuss company money. He opened the second binder. Daniel's anger disappeared. Marcus placed a flowchart in front of the trustees. 5 years ago, Grace Sullivan transferred $280,000 of premarital funds to Whitmore Mobility during a liquidity crisis. Daniel nodded. She chose to invest in the family business. I was told it was a temporary loan, I said. There was no promissory note. Marcus continued. Within 6 weeks, $110,000 was paid to Warren Strategy Group. Thomas looked at Celeste. That is your company? Yes. I provided consulting services. What services? Strategic restructuring, vendor negotiations, executive positioning. Maggie pushed forward several invoices. The invoices are nearly identical. No project details, no time records, no deliverables attached. Celeste's face tightened. My work was verbal and confidential. For $110,000? Harold asked. My services had significant value. Daniel interrupted. Celeste helped keep the company alive. So did I said. He barely looked at me. You contributed money. I handled the families during the recall. I kept the hospital from terminating its contract. I used my house to secure your loans. That was a marital decision. Then why was I not told where the money went? Daniel turned to Thomas. This is a divorce dispute dressed up as a corporate complaint. Marcus slid another document across the table, then explained these commercial credit applications. Daniel did not touch them. Marcus continued. Grace Sullivan is listed as a personal guarantor. Her social security number appears on both applications. She denies authorizing either one. Daniel's attorney, who had been silent until then, leaned toward him. Did she sign? Daniel's throat moved. She signed Broad Financing Authority. Rebecca immediately placed the original agreement beside the applications. No, she signed authorization for one specific line of credit. The later applications exceeded that authority. They were renewals. They were new obligations. Daniel's attorney lowered his voice. I need to see those privately. Thomas shook his head. We will finish the presentation. Daniel turned on me. You knew the company was struggling. I knew what you told me. You enjoyed the benefits when things were good. What benefits? His mouth opened. I waited. He could not name one. I had paid household expenses from my salary. My house belonged to me before the marriage. The company car was his. The downtown apartment was theirs. The expensive dinners were theirs. The only thing I received from Whitmore Mobility was risk. Marcus moved to the mortgage records. The Sullivan property remains tied to a continuing guarantee. Mrs. Whitmore says Daniel told her it expired after 6 months. It was supposed to, Daniel said. Did you inform her it had not? I assumed she received the notices. They were sent to your office. His attorney closed his eyes. Thomas looked at Daniel with open disgust. Did you deliberately conceal the continuing guarantee from your wife? No. Did you know it was still active? Daniel hesitated. Yes. The room went silent. I had already known the answer. Hearing him admit it still hurt. Rebecca slid the unsigned certification toward him. This document asks Grace to swear she entered every guarantee with full knowledge. Daniel said nothing. It also asks her to waive future claims based on non-disclosure. Rebecca continued. You presented this to her 2 days ago. It was standard language. You were asking her to certify a lie. I was trying to complete the transfer so I could stabilize the company and release the house. I leaned forward. You made my home the hostage, then told me to help you pay the ransom. Daniel's face twisted. You always make things sound crueler than they are. No, I finally stopped making them sound kinder. Thomas called for a short recess. No one moved. Daniel's attorney whispered to him, but Daniel pushed his chair back. This entire presentation is based on stolen emails and the interpretation of a bitter spouse. Maggie opened the third binder. Then perhaps the company's own benefit records will be clearer. She distributed copies. Celeste Warren has been listed as Daniel Whitmore's spouse for executive travel, event registration, and supplemental medical benefits. Thomas looked between Daniel and Celeste. How many spouses did you declare? Daniel's lips parted. Maggie continued. Grace Whitmore appears as the legal spouse on trust and loan documents. Celeste Warren appears as the spouse whenever the designation provided travel, housing, insurance, or public status. Harold removed his glasses. You maintained 2 different wives for 2 different financial purposes. It was an administrative convenience. Daniel said. I stared at him. Was I also an administrative convenience? He looked away. That was the closest he had ever come to honesty. Thomas turned to Celeste. Did you knowingly accept benefits as Daniel's spouse? She straightened. I believe the company had approved my benefits as part of my consulting package. Maggie held up one enrollment form. The relationship field is completed in your handwriting. Celeste's eyes moved to the page. Daniel whispered, "Don't." She looked at him sharply. Thomas asked, "Did you identify yourself as Mrs. Whitmore at corporate events?" Celeste's composure cracked. "Daniel introduced me that way." Every face turned toward him. Daniel stared at her. "You wanted the title. You said it was necessary. You wore the ring before I suggested anything." Celeste's eyes narrowed. "You bought the ring." I watched them begin to fracture. For 5 years, they had imagined themselves as tragic lovers fighting an unfair family system. Now that consequences were attached, neither wanted to own the story. Thomas looked at the outside counsel. "What is your recommendation?" The attorney folded his hands. "The control transfer should be suspended immediately. The company should initiate an independent investigation into related party payments, false benefit declarations, misuse of company housing, and possible unauthorized credit activity." Daniel stood. "You cannot suspend me based on marital accusations." Maggie looked directly at him. "This morning, accounting detected attempted transfers from 2 company reserve accounts to a newly formed holding entity." Daniel froze. Celeste turned toward him. "What holding entity?" He ignored her. Maggie continued. "The transfers were stopped under the legal hold." Daniel pointed at her. "You had no authority. Outside counsel authorized it." Celeste leaned closer to Daniel. "You told me the restructuring account was already funded. This is not the time." Her face changed. "What happened to the money?" He lowered his voice. "Sit down." "No. You said the funds would be protected before the vote." Thomas looked at the attorney. "Were company assets being moved in anticipation of the control transfer?" "We are investigating." Celeste stood. "I had nothing to do with unauthorized transfers." Daniel stared at her. "Celeste." She stepped away from him. "All financial decisions were Daniel's. I was a consultant." His face went blank. "You drafted the restructuring plan. I made recommendations. You approved them. You told me where to move the money. I did not have signing authority." The speed of her retreat stunned even me. Daniel's eyes hardened. "You said we had to secure the assets before Grace could make a claim." Celeste's face turned white. His attorney grabbed his arm. "Stop talking." But Daniel was no longer listening. "You designed this entire plan." Celeste laughed sharply. "You were the general manager. You wanted the company. You married Grace. You used her house. You chose her. You agreed. You taught me how to keep her quiet. You didn't need much teaching." The room erupted in overlapping voices. Thomas struck the table. "Enough." Celeste pointed at Daniel. "He told me everything was legal. He said Grace understood the arrangement." I stood. "You saw me in his office." She looked at me. "You knew I did not understand." Her mouth opened, then closed. "You called me Eleanor's care coordinator." I continued. "You knew exactly who I was, and you wanted to remind me what place you thought I had." Her expression hardened again. "I did not make vows to you." "No, you only helped him break them." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Don't pretend you're innocent." "Celeste, you were counting the days until I could divorce her." She turned on him. "Because you promised me 5 years. You said once you controlled the shares, we would finally have a real life. And now you're blaming me because the accounts are frozen?" "What accounts?" Thomas asked. No one answered. Outside counsel leaned toward Maggie. Maggie checked her notes. "Warren Strategy Group received notice this morning that disputed payments may be subject to recovery. The company also suspended access to the executive apartment and related expense accounts." Celeste's face lost all color. "You froze my money?" "The company preserved disputed assets," Maggie said. Celeste looked at Daniel with naked fury. "You said Grace could never touch any of it." Daniel's expression collapsed. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The love of his life was not mourning their lost future. She was mourning her frozen accounts. Thomas called the meeting back to order. The trustees voted unanimously to postpone the control transfer. Then Thomas read the preliminary findings. Daniel Whitmore has failed to establish the required stable marriage. Evidence indicates deliberate deception, conflicting spouse declarations, undisclosed related party transactions, and potential financial misconduct. Daniel gripped the back of his chair. This is temporary, Thomas continued. Pending investigation. You are suspended from executive authority. You cannot do that. The board can. I own this company. Thomas looked at him. You own a minority interest. The controlling shares remain in trust. Daniel's face crumpled with rage. Harold added, if the allegations are substantiated, the trust's fraud clause may permanently disqualify you. Daniel turned to me. You did this. I met his eyes. No, I stopped hiding what you did. Eleanor entered before the meeting ended. Vanessa followed her, breathless and angry. Apparently Daniel had called them during the recess. Eleanor went straight to Thomas. This family matter should never have reached the board. Thomas stood. Mrs. Whitmore, a false marital certification connected to corporate control is a board matter. Eleanor pointed at me. She is trying to punish my son because his marriage was imperfect. Imperfect? I repeated. Vanessa stepped forward. You've already humiliated him. Isn't that enough? I told the truth. You could cost hundreds of people their jobs. Maggie's voice cut through the room. Employees are not protected by allowing executives to misuse company money. Vanessa turned on her. You've always wanted Daniel's position. Maggie smiled without warmth. No, I wanted him to do the job. Eleanor took my arm. I pulled away. Grace, please, think about the family. I have spent 5 years thinking about your family. Then do not destroy it. Your son created a fake marriage to obtain your husband's company. Celeste used corporate money as her personal account. Vanessa helped prepare a story that I was mentally unstable. Which part would you like me to protect? Vanessa's face flushed. That was only in case you became vindictive. You planned to call me unstable before I knew there was anything to be angry about. Eleanor's lips trembled. We loved you in our own way. No, you valued what I did for you. That is not the same thing. It is not even close. Daniel suddenly pushed past his attorney and caught up with me near the door. His anger was gone. His eyes were wet. Grace, wait. I stopped. He lowered his voice. We can fix this. Behind him, Celeste was arguing with outside counsel about access to the apartment. I looked back at Daniel. What exactly do you want to fix? The trust. The company. The house. Not the marriage. He swallowed. The marriage too. You don't even know what that word means. I'll end things with Celeste. Celeste heard him. She turned. You'll what? Daniel ignored her. We can go home. He said to me. We can talk privately. You can tell me what you want. I took the envelope Rebecca handed me. What I want is in here. He accepted it with shaking fingers. When he saw the divorce petition, his face emptied. You filed already? I filed for protection of the property. The divorce follows. Grace, don't do this. You did this 5 years ago. I'm only putting the correct date on the end. His phone rang. He looked at the screen and answered. The company's outside counsel spoke loudly enough that I heard part of it. Daniel, federal investigators have requested preservation of the credit and payment records. Do not access any company system. Daniel lowered the phone. For the first time since I had met him, he looked truly powerless. What do you want from me? He whispered. I looked at the man who had taken my savings, my confidence, and 5 years of my life. I wanted an honest husband. His face twisted. I can be that now. No. I took my wedding ring from the boardroom table and placed it in his palm. You only want to become honest because lying stopped paying. Then I walked away while Daniel stood between the wife he had used and the woman who had just abandoned him over frozen money. Daniel did not spend the weeks after the board meeting asking for forgiveness. He spent them trying to make me afraid. The first letter from his attorney accused me of stealing trade secrets. The second claimed I had intentionally damaged Whitmore Mobility by spreading private marital information. The third demanded that I return every document in my possession and agree not to speak to employees, trustees, lenders, investigators, or the press. Rebecca read all 3 letters, stacked them neatly, and pushed them aside. They're trying to overwhelm you. Can they sue me? Anyone can file a lawsuit. Winning is different. What if they come after my job? They may try. They did. 2 days later, Linda asked me to come into her office at Meadowbrook. Daniel had contacted the Rehabilitation Center's board chairman. He claimed I had suffered an emotional breakdown, misused confidential company records, and created a public scandal because he wanted a divorce. I sat across from Linda and forced myself not to grip the arms of the chair. "Are you suspending me?" Linda frowned. "Why would I suspend you?" "Because my husband says I'm unstable." "Your husband also said you were a receptionist." "Despite everything." I laughed. Linda slid a printed email toward me. Daniel had described me as a low-level care employee with a history of emotional fixation. "He doesn't know what you do," Linda said. That may be the most believable part of his message. "I don't want Meadowbrook dragged into this." "You didn't drag anyone into anything. Daniel contacted us. He may keep calling. Then our counsel will keep responding." I looked down.
I'm sorry.
Linda leaned forward. "Stop apologizing for the work other people create." That sentence followed me through the rest of the day. It followed me when a family blamed me for an insurance denial I had not caused. It followed me when Vanessa sent 6 messages demanding that I resume managing Eleanor's appointments. It followed me when Daniel left a voicemail at midnight. "You're ruining people who never did anything to you, Grace. My mother is barely sleeping. Vanessa's children are hearing rumors at school. If you have any decency left, call me." I deleted nothing. Rebecca had told me to preserve every message. So I saved Daniel's demand that I prove my decency by rescuing the people who had helped deceive me. 3 weeks after the board meeting, Marcus called me into his office. He looked more tired than the last time I had seen him, but there was satisfaction in his expression. "We found the rest of the money." My pulse jumped. "How much?" "Not all of the original transfer is recoverable, but we traced additional funds from Whitmore Mobility to Warren Strategy Group, the downtown apartment, and several personal expenses." He handed me a summary. There were jewelry purchases, travel charges, furniture, private dining memberships, and payments to a wedding planner in Napa Valley. I stared at the last item. A wedding planner? Daniel and Celeste paid a deposit 8 months ago. 8 months ago, Daniel had forgotten my birthday. He had sent flowers the next day with a card signed by his assistant. While I thanked him for remembering, he and Celeste had been planning their wedding. Marcus watched me carefully. "You okay?" "No." Felt good to say it without pretending. "But I will be." He nodded. "The bank has agreed to suspend enforcement of the guarantee, while the fraud claims are investigated. Rebecca is negotiating a complete release. My house is safe. Not officially yet, but the lender would have a difficult time claiming it relied on your informed consent." I pressed my fingers to my lips. For months, even before I knew the truth, I had felt something tightening around my life. Daniel had treated every repair, purchase, and career decision as if the house belonged to the company. Now I understood why. What about the commercial credit applications? One lender has already confirmed the electronic authorization came from an IP address assigned to Daniel's office. I looked at Marcus. He used my identity from his desk. Yes, and then told everyone I was too emotional to understand money. Marcus closed the file. People who commit financial abuse often work very hard to make the victim seem incompetent. I should have checked my credit. "You trusted your husband." I know. This time, the words did not sound like a confession. They sounded like a fact. Trust had been something I gave. The crime was what Daniel did with it. Celeste requested a meeting the following week. Rebecca advised me not to go alone, so we met in her conference room. Celeste arrived without the ring. Her clothes were still expensive, but she looked exhausted. She placed her purse beside her chair and glanced toward Rebecca. "Does she need to stay?" "Yes," I said. Celeste's mouth tightened. "I'm cooperating with the company's investigation." I heard. I gave them emails Daniel tried to delete. Rebecca spoke calmly. "Why?" Celeste looked at me. "Because he is blaming everything on me." I almost smiled. "You're surprised?" He told investigators that Warren Strategy Group manipulated him into authorizing the payments. "Did you?" "I recommended some payments. Daniel approved them." "And the apartment?" "He arranged it." "The false spouse benefits?" "He told me the designation did not matter." "You filled out the forms." Her face hardened. "I did not come here to be interrogated." "Then why did you come?" Celeste looked down at her hands. "I wanted you to understand that Daniel lied to me too." For a moment, I could not speak. Then I asked, "About what?" He said you understood the marriage was practical.
Ich zerrte her.
You stood in his office and watched me discover you existed. He said you knew he did not love you. That is not the same as knowing I was selected to satisfy a trust. He told me you were comfortable with the arrangement. Did I look comfortable? Celeste said nothing. I leaned forward. Did I look like a woman who knew? Her jaw tightened. No. Yet you still called me his mother's care coordinator. I panicked. No. You wanted to put me beneath you. Her eyes flashed. You think this was easy for me? I waited 5 years while he went home to you. He did not come home to me. He went home to a house I maintained while he lived with you. I loved him. So did I. The answer silenced her. Celeste looked away first. I did not make vows to you. She said more quietly. You already used that defense. It's true. And I am not divorcing you. But do not ask me to comfort you because the man you helped deceive me also deceived you. Her eyes filled. But I felt no victory. Only exhaustion. She opened her purse and removed a flash drive. These are personal messages Daniel kept off the company server. They include the property transfers and the plan to move assets after the trustee vote. Rebecca accepted it without plugging it in. Your attorney should coordinate any formal production. He already has. Celeste stood at the door. She turned back. I am sorry. I looked at her. Are you sorry I was hurt? Or sorry the money was frozen? Her face changed. That was answer enough. After she left, Rebecca said, you didn't have to meet with her. I know. Did it help? No. Picked up my purse. But it reminded me that I don't need either of them to explain my own life to me. Eleanor called the next morning. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. Grace, she said, immediately breathless. I need your help. No apology. No greeting. What happened? Vanessa scheduled my cardiology appointment for the wrong day. The office says they can't see me until next month. Then asked to be placed on the cancellation list. I already did. They won't listen to me the way they listen to you. Vanessa can call. She is not good with medical offices. She's 33. Eleanor's voice sharpened. You know my history. You know which records they need. I sent the complete list to Vanessa. She lost it. Then she can ask me to resend it. She's upset with you. I almost laughed. Then I suppose she'll have to choose between being upset and helping her mother. Eleanor went silent. When she spoke again, her voice softened. I miss you. I closed my eyes. For years. Those words would have brought me running. Do you miss me? I asked. Or do you miss what I did? That is cruel. It is a question. You were part of this family. I was labor inside this family. You know that isn't true. Do you know my job title? She hesitated. Grace, do you know the name of my supervisor? That has nothing to do with us. Do you know what promotion I gave up when you had surgery? Silence. I felt the final thread between us loosen. You called me your daughter. I said, but you never learned anything about my life that didn't help yours. I cared about you in my own way. Your way required me not to know the truth. Daniel made the decisions. You helped select me. He was desperate. So was I. Every time I wondered why my husband could not bear to touch me, Eleanor began to cry. I never wanted you to feel that way. You knew exactly how I felt. Daniel and Celeste discussed it with you. I thought he would be kinder, but not honest. She had no answer. I spoke more gently then. Not for her, but for myself. Your medical records are organized. Vanessa has the doctor's names, insurance numbers, medications, and appointment history. I made sure you would not be abandoned. You're abandoning me now. No, I'm returning responsibility to your children. Then I ended the call. I sat with the phone in my hand and cried harder than I had at the board meeting. Not because I wanted to go back. Because part of me still wished Eleanor had loved me enough to tell the truth. Healing did not arrive as one clean decision. Sometimes it was choosing not to answer the second call. The divorce took 8 months. Daniel fought every request. He claimed my premarital savings had been a gift. Marcus found an email where Daniel promised repayment after the company recovered. He claimed I understood the house guarantee. Rebecca produced messages where I repeatedly asked when the property would be released. He claimed our marriage had only failed after I became jealous of Celeste. Celeste's emails proved they had planned the divorce before Daniel ever proposed to me. During mediation, Daniel sat across from me with gray under his eyes. He no longer wore tailored suits. His company access had been revoked. The trust had formally disqualified him from receiving the controlling shares, and investigators were reviewing the credit applications and related party payments. His attorney pushed a settlement proposal across the table. Daniel would assume the disputed company-related debts, reimburse most of my lost savings, and pay part of my legal fees. The lien against my home would be released. In exchange, he wanted a permanent confidentiality agreement. Rebecca read it and shook her head. No. Daniel looked at me. Grace, this protects both of us. Protects you. It protects your reputation too. My reputation survived your lies. He rubbed his face. What do you want? More money. I want the right to tell the truth about what happened to me. You want to humiliate me? No. I want to help people recognize what you did before it happens to them. His expression hardened. So this is your new identity? Professional victim? I waited for the words to hurt. They did not. My identity was never the problem. He looked away. After another hour, his attorney removed the permanent gag clause. The final agreement protected confidential company and patient information, but allowed me to discuss my own marriage,
Finance.
and recovery. Before we signed, Daniel asked to speak to me privately. Rebecca looked at me. It's your choice. I agreed, but left the door open. Daniel stood near the window, twisting his wedding ring. Did you ever love me? He asked. The question was so offensive that I almost walked out. Yes. He looked surprised. I loved you completely. Then how can you do this? Because love is not permission. His mouth tightened. I made mistakes. You made plans. I was under pressure. You were always under pressure. Somehow the pressure only made you hurt me. He stepped closer. What Celeste and I had is over. That is not a gift to me. She turned on me the second the money was frozen. And you turned on me before our wedding. His eyes filled. We had good moments. We had moments I thought were real. They were real. Not in the same way for both of us. He looked down at the ring. I could have learned to love you. I felt something cold move through me. That may be the cruelest thing you've ever said. I didn't mean. You think I should have waited longer? Given you more money? Taken care of your mother for another 5 years while you decided whether I was worth loving? He shook his head quickly. No. I loved a man who did not exist. You loved what I provided. That isn't fair. Fair would have been telling me the truth before I gave up my promotion, my savings, my house, and my body to a marriage you considered temporary. He stared at me. What happens to me now? For 5 years, every conversation had ended with that question, even when he did not say it aloud. What happens to Daniel? Who protects Daniel? Who comforts Daniel? That day, I finally gave him the only honest answer. I don't know. Then I returned to the conference room and signed my name, Grace Sullivan, not Grace Whitmore. The house release arrived 6 weeks later. I stood in my kitchen with the document in my hands and read my own name 3 times. The property was mine again. No company guarantee. No hidden renewal. No husband explaining what I was allowed to understand. I returned to Meadowbrook full-time, but the work began to change. Ruth Banks introduced me to 2 other women who had discovered hidden debt after their husbands died. A patient's daughter asked me to review a list of questions before her mother signed a reverse mortgage. Linda suggested I hold a small workshop for families. We can call it financial safety for caregivers. She said, I'm not a lawyer. You know that. The families know that. You can teach them what questions to ask and when to call one. The first workshop had 12 people. The second had 40. At the third, a 71-year-old man waited until everyone left and whispered, My wife controls every account. She tells our children I'm confused. But I'm not. I gave him Rebecca's number and helped him write down what had happened. That night, I understood what I wanted to build. Not a revenge project. A door. A place where people could walk in before losing 5 years. A house. Or their confidence. With Rebecca's legal guidance, Marcus's financial training, and support from Meadowbrook, I founded Clear Harbor Family Advocacy. We helped older adults, spouses, and family caregivers recognize financial control, hidden guarantees, coerced signatures, and identity misuse. Maggie joined our advisory board after she became interim chief operating officer at Whitmore Mobility. At our first public event, she hugged me. You know, Daniel used to say you wouldn't understand business. I didn't. Maggie smiled. You understood people. That was always more valuable. A year after the board meeting, we celebrated Clear Harbor's anniversary at my house. Ruth brought a cake with my organization's logo tilted slightly to one side. Linda complained that I had invited too many people for the number of chairs. Marcus brought printed brochures even though I had told him it was not a work event. Rebecca raised a glass. To informed consent, she said. To asking questions, Ruth added. To reading every page, Marcus said. Everyone looked at me. I laughed. To never confusing being needed with being loved. Later, after the last guest left, Owen Mercer stayed behind to help carry folding chairs into the garage. He was a social worker who coordinated services for older veterans. We had worked together for several months. He leaned against the doorway. There's a coffee shop near my office. I know. I was wondering whether you might want to go with me sometime. I studied his face. There was no demand in it. No carefully arranged crisis. No suggestion that his happiness depended on my answer. I might, I said. His smile widened. Is that a yes? It's a yes to coffee. Coffee is good. He left without asking for more. I locked the door and walked through the quiet house. For years, silence had meant Daniel was angry, absent, or withholding something. Now it meant no one needed medication. No one needed a signature. No one was waiting for me to solve a problem they had created. The deed in my desk carried only my name. The business card beside it carried only my name. And for the first time in 5 years, no one was borrowing my credit, my kindness, or my life. Everything in that house belonged to me, including the woman I had finally become.